Bum bada bum bada bum 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 bum. Okay, that was terrible. Anyways, Star Wars. Now, I have been a huge fan of Star Wars ever since my childhood. Now, that being said, was my favorite Star Wars growing up Return of the Jedi? Maybe. Because, you know, Empire Strikes Back was too scary. Nevertheless, on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through some incredible custom commanders inspired by Star Wars. These designs came from some of the amazing members over at Custom Dragon Highlander. And if you want to join their awesome Discord, make sure you check out the link in the description below. Their community is dedicated to designing, creating, playtesting, and voting on custom commanders. So the designs on this episode are the best of the best, the cream of the crop, as voted on by their community. So a massive thank you to their community for designing and sharing these cards. And a big thank you to Alano for organizing all of this. And now, of course, with all that said, let's jump into it. First up, coming in at 10th place, we've got Yoda, Disciple, and Apostle from Bistro Math 42. So, Yoda is a 2/3 alien monk with mentor that costs green, white, white. He has creatures you control without +1/+1 counters on them have training. And by removing a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control, you put a charge, flying, first strike, lifelink, reach, trample, or vigilance counter on that creature. Activate only as a sorcery. And, okay, I'm sorry for this. I'm just gonna read the flavor text.
Much to learn, we all have.
Terrible Yoda impression aside, Bistro Math 42 had this to say about the design. My submission for the challenge was Yoda. I chose Yoda since I wanted to design something simple and iconic. And Yoda as a character is both. Teaching all of your creatures after they have trained, Yoda is ready to pass out keyword counters as lessons only to get ready to train again. I feel the build plan for this commander is obvious. Either playing above rate beaters and training them up to become keyword monstrosities, or training a bunch of tokens all at once and giving them all flying post-combat. Regardless, I hope you enjoy my submission. Well, I personally very much enjoy this design for Yoda, and I think it is a fantastic one. This card has both a flavorful and a very well thought out and powerful design. Yoda being a mentor and giving training to your non-counter creatures is a fantastic effect. There are always more lessons to learn, especially from a master like Yoda. And by being able to have the flexibility of giving those creatures different kinds of counters, well, you can really play different ways in different situations, and also you can turn those less threatening creatures into massive threats later on in the game. So overall, Bistro Math 42, a fantastic job on Yoda. But now it's time for us to move on to number 9 with General Grievous Jedi Hunter from Sir Tiffany. General Grievous is a 4/4 legendary artifact creature alien warrior with trample that costs 5, and it has... Whenever another legendary creature dies, General Grievous Jedi Hunter gains protection from each of that creature's colors until the next time this ability resolves. Then put a +1 counter on General Grievous. And by paying Wooburg until end of turn, all legendary creatures able to block General Grievous do so. And here's what Sir Tiffany had to say about the design. I'm a big fan of commanders that turn sideways, and Grievous sure does love combat in all adaptations of him. I decided to challenge myself by starting with a lot of general mechanics like protection, legendary tribal, and forcing blocks, and had to find a way to balance it all together in a cohesive manner. He may be yet another Voltron commander, but you have to time which creatures are dying in a certain order using single target removal to really utilize his protection and allow him to get through. The protection was also a nice balancing factor for your opponent's commander, so you have more difficulty killing the same commander repeatedly. Well, Sir Tiffany, I definitely agree with you, and yeah, this is an incredibly unique commander that I really love the design of. That layer of protection just adds a different layer of complexity with this commander, and I very much enjoy that. Again, if someone is trying to destroy General Grievous and there just happens to be a legendary creature on the board, you know, like maybe someone's commander that happens to match the color of the spell that's trying to take out General Grievous, well, you can use a target removal spell yourself to actually, again, give General Grievous protection from that spell spell's colors to essentially just negate the spell while also growing General Grievous and give it protection from other things too. And then the blocking ability is just another great layer, and yeah, I think this commander has a lot of potential, and I really do enjoy this design. So again, a huge thank you to Sir Tiffany for this great General Grievous card. But now it's time for us to move on to number 8 with Count Dooku from Nickel Goatloss. Count Dooku is a 3/2 human warrior warlock that costs red, white, black. He has First Strike and Provoke, which means that when this creature attacks, you may have target creature defending player controls untap and block it if able. And whenever Count Dooku attacks alone, it can't be blocked by more than one creature this turn. Then Count Dooku deals 2 damage to any target, put a -1/-1 counter on that target if it's a creature. And here's what Nickel Goatloss had to say on the design. When making Dooku, I had Provoke so he can draw enemies into combat with him, and First Strike to show his expertise in fighting. His attack trigger is his Force Lightning with initial damage of 2 and a permanent weakening of the creature with a -1/-1 counter to show the Force Lightning taking a permanent toll. I'd build the deck with a Voltron strategy, especially utilizing the cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that care about warriors attacking alone. Well, Nickel Goatloss, a fantastic design at that for Dooku, and I'm so excited to see Provoke being used on a commander like this. In fact, I think Provoke is the perfect place for Dooku, and yeah, that attack trigger is incredible. Very flavorful, with that Force Lightning, I agree, the permanent damage that would cause, and yeah, I mean, just having Count Dooku hit first as well. First Strike, this commander can be a really big heavy hitter that can take out a lot of creatures throughout the game, and it's going to be very hard to duel this one-on-one. And of course, yeah, with a Voltron style strategy, you're going to be able to make this even deadlier. And yeah, extra combats as well could really help as well. Really take advantage of that attack trigger too. Overall, a fantastic design. Thank you again, Nickel Goatloss. But now it's time for us to move on to number 7 with Wicket W. Warwick by Lo Choi. Wicket is a 2/2 beast with Force Walk that costs 1 and a green, and it has, whenever a creature dies if it fought this turn, return to the battlefield under its owner's control face down. It's a forest land, put a +1 counter on Wicket W. Warwick if you didn't own that creature. And my apologies again, I have to do this flavor text. Yup. Okay, that was even worse. Anyways, here's what Lo Choi had to say about the design. Wicket is a classic mono-green fight ramp and Voltron commander. I was inspired by the connection to Endor that Ewoks have, which is why Wicket has Force Walk and returns creatures that fought to the battlefield as Force. The deck is plenty of fight spells with various synergistic creatures that want to die or be dealt damage. It uses pieces like Cloudstone Curio to return your face-down creatures to replay them, and a massive forest-walking Wicket to close out games. Well, Lo Choi, yeah, this design is really spicy. I absolutely love the combination of Force Walk and being able to turn your opponent's creatures essentially into force by fighting them. And of course, benefiting from your own creatures fighting as well and turning into force and ramping you, but also, those creatures that do want to be dealt damage too. And of course, I would just love to see the fear on my opponent's faces when they are taken out by a giant Wicket. So yeah, a great design, and again, a big thank you, Lo Choi. But now let's move on to number 6 with Captain Hondo Onaka from Captain Deadpool. Hey, a captain picking a captain. I see what you did there. Anyways, a 1/4 alien pirate with First Strike that costs 1 blue, black, red. He has, whenever a pirate you control deals damage to another creature, gain control of that creature. For as long as you control it, it loses all abilities and is a 0/1 creature named Hostage. Also, at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent may have you create X treasure tokens, where X is the total mana value among creatures they own named Hostage you control. When they do, they gain control of each of those creatures. And Captain Deadpool had this to say about the design. Hondo Onaka is one of my favorite characters in the Clone Wars. He was a pirate who took some of the biggest players in the galaxy hostage, and he got away with it. I wanted to do a card that showed he can take anyone hostage if he gets his chance. I also wanted to show he was practical enough to make a business deal and move on with no hard feelings. He gives you a chance to make a fair trade for your creatures back as long as you make a good deal for him. I would build pirate tribal able to maximize the number of creatures that can deal damage to other creatures, but also run Orin equipment that let your creatures tap to deal damage like Viridian Longbow. Well, Captain Deadpool, yeah, this is a really cool design. And I 100% agree, I would not only run a bunch of pirates, but also a bunch of ways to allow those pirates to dish out damage. So even from a distance, you can just take over creatures, utilize them as hostages, and exchange them for a ton of treasure. So yeah, a really cool build that I feel like a lot of players out there would very much enjoy building around, and yeah. Again, a huge thank you to you, Captain Deadpool, for sharing it. But next up, let's move on to number 5 with Pon Krell, Conniving Traitor from Panoptis. He is a 3/3 alien soldier that costs 1 red, white, black, and has, whenever you create 1 or more creature tokens, you may have target opponent create copies of each of those tokens, except the copies are goated. At the beginning of each end step, if 1 or more attacking tokens die this turn, draw a card. And here's what Panoptis had to say about the design. Pon Krell's ability is based on him making 2 legions of clone troopers and thus tokens fight each other under false premises. A particularly mean and thus appropriate way to build Pon Krell is to use effects such as Kiki Jiki and Splinter Twin combined with creatures opponents really don't want to have. The tokens you create are sacrificed, but because the tokens Pon Krell creates are copies, your opponents have to keep them. Well, Panoptis, I definitely agree, and yeah, that is a spicy build path for this commander. I can definitely imagine creating a lot of token copies of things your opponents just don't want to have. Perhaps creatures with a very bad upkeep trigger, or again, a big attack trigger, or something that just has a negative impact and doesn't allow them to cast certain things. This can kind of be like a Zedru Bad Gifts commander in a way, and yeah, there's some very spicy things you can do with it. So overall, an incredible design. Thank you again, Panoptis, for sharing it. Next up, though, let's move on to number 4 with Kalani, Tactical Genius from Alano. A 2/2 construct that costs blue, 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 and says you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, look at the top card of the library of the player whose turn it is. You may put that card on the bottom of that player's library. And Alano had this to say about the card. I actually play the Star Wars Legion miniatures game, and Kalani is the leader I like using in it. I decided to make a commander befitting of a super tactical droid. Well, Alano, yeah, I mean, this is definitely tactical and an incredible droid. Giving sorcery spells flash allows you to do some very crazy things, and being able to play at instant speed with your sorceries, and of course, you know, your instants on your opponent's turns, you are really able to take advantage of that trigger to essentially, well, just keep fate sealing your opponents again and again. And yeah, there's some really dangerous things you can do with this one. I would definitely focus on ways to see the top of my opponent's libraries, probably permanently, and yeah, just be able to determine when I don't want them to have certain cards. So at a certain point, they're going to draw into cards that they can't utilize, and yeah, just basically shut them down in that manner. So overall, a brutally awesome design. Thank you again, Alano. But now it's time for us to move on to number 3 with Puffy, Porg Pack Leader by Fresh Produce. Puffy is a 0/1 bird beast that costs red, green, white, and it has Storm. So when you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Copies become tokens. It also has flying, and Puffy isn't legendary if it's a token. And Fresh Produce had this to say about the design. I absolutely hated the Disney sequel trilogy, and I believe the only good thing from it was Porgs. This card started out as a joke and evolved into something much more different. I had a blast creating it and finding ways to try and balance this meme of a card. In the end, I have no thoughts, only Porg Storm. Well, Fresh Produce, you have definitely succeeded at Porg Storm. Because, yeah, I can see a lot of Storm potential for this card. With this kind of a card, I definitely imagine some kind of impact trigger and, Perforos effects to ping down your opponents when you've got a lot of, Puffies coming into play. Also, of course, some anthems to allow you to hit your opponents really hard. Again, they're going to have flying, so that is a great way to get damage through. And of course, you can even take advantage of some Magecraft triggers too. So yeah, Puffy Porg Pack Leader has a lot of potential for Porg Storming, and yeah, again, a big thank you again to Fresh Produce for sharing this one. But now it's time for us to move on to number 2 with Cad Bane for hire from Roots of Justice. Cad Bane is a 2/4 alien mercenary with death touch and reach that costs 1 black, green, blue. He has pay 1 and a black, tap for each opponent that player chooses up to 1 target creature. You may destroy one of them if you do create a treasure token. Pay a green, tap, sacrifice X treasures, create X 1/1 black mercenary creature tokens. And pay 1 and a blue, sacrifice another mercenary, Cad Bane phases out, create a treasure token. And of course, on the right, you can see the mercenary token as well. Regardless, Roots of Justice had this to say about the design. Cad Bane is designed to behave as any bounty hunter should. It allows you to make political moves on the table by eliminating creatures problematic to other players in exchange for coin in pocket, until of course the biggest threat becomes himself. He can also save himself by pushing one of his hirelings into the line of fire. How I would build around this commander is to generate large amounts of treasure before going wide, utilizing Cad Bane's second ability in conjunction with token generators, sacrifice outlets, and effects that can change creature types to swarm the battlefield with green horn mercs looking to make a name for themselves. Well, Roots of Justice, this is a great design, and I definitely agree. I would definitely be looking to go wide with a lot of treasures, and then really utilize those treasures to make a massive army. You can swarm the battlefield in absolutely no time, and of course, also utilize those creatures in other ways. Again, if you're sacrificing your mercenaries, well, maybe have some Blood Earth effects as well to drain your opponents. So yeah, overall, a great design. Thank you again for this one, Roots of Justice. And now we have finally gotten to number 1 with Admiral Akbar Element of Surprise by Crystal Shard 471. Admiral Akbar is a 2/4 alien rebel with flying and vigilance that costs 1 white, blue, black. He has each non-land card in your hand without foretell has foretell. Its foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 1 for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. And my apologies again. It's a trap! Okay, that was terrible. Anyways, whenever you cast a foretold card, create a 0/0 colorless rebel creature token with. This creature gets ++1 for each rebel you control. And of course, we can see the rebels on the right. Regardless, Crystal Shard 471 had this to say about the design. Admiral Akbar will always be remembered for his line, "It's a trap," and so I wanted to capture the character's likeness and base the card around Magic's traps. Foretold cards. I actually got the idea for this card from my father, who, when asked to name a Star Wars character to build a card around, merely responded with a gif of Akbar saying, "It's a trap." So this card was built for him. Optimally, this deck would run a lot of support for foretelling cards such as Renar the Everwatchful, and cards not cast from hand, such as Vega the Watcher, along with some tribal support for those rebel tokens, and maybe a big spell or two to cast for cheaper and finish the game, such as in Garrick's Wake. Well, Crystal Shard 471, I definitely think that you capture the flavor perfectly for Admiral Akbar. It being a foretell commander is just absolutely incredible. And of course, I can see a player playing this and just saying every single time they put down a foretell card, "It's a trap!" Just to, alert your opponents that there's going to be a trap of some sort. Or, when they're actually, utilizing that card, just saying, "It's a trap!" and then flipping it over. So yeah, that's going to be said quite a bit. Regardless, I love this design, and I think you did a fantastic job. Congratulations again for the first place finish, Crystal Shard 471. Again, a massive thank you to the Custom Dragon Highlander community for participating and voting on these incredible commanders. And of course, a huge thank you to Alano for putting all this together. These designs were absolutely fantastic, and I was definitely blown away by them. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to join the amazing Custom Dragon Highlander community, make sure you check out that Discord invite link in the description below. And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thank you again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.